Welcome to Hormone Power Hour. Hormone Power Hour is a dedicated resource for women and men seeking support and guidance for hormonal health. I am passionate about helping women understand that they are not alone in their hormonal struggles and providing them with the tools and knowledge to take control of their well-being. Welcome to Hormone Power Hour. I'm here to dive into the good, the bad, and the hormonal. And I'm here with one of my most favorite people on earth right now. This is Brittany McNeil, and she's FNP. And I'm so happy that she's here because I really think that she has saved my life along with many others, the carnage that can go with having hormone issues. So I really appreciate your help through the years that I've been with you. So she's my first guest and I'm very excited to have her. And she's going to talk to us some about hormone replacement therapy and all things hormonal. So I do have a few questions for you, like general health questions,
Okay.
Hormonal health. Can you explain the role hormones played in women's overall health and well-being?
Oh, we could do a whole hour on just that alone.
Right.
I like to look at hormones and, there's vanity symptoms like I like to talk about to my patients. It's like you think of hormonal fluctuation, you think of the hot flashes, the night sweats, the focus, the libido, the, inability to sleep and all of those things, just that overall vitality. I like to call those my vanity symptoms. But then there's that long-term chronic health aspect. Hormones are essential for our brain health, our heart health, our bone health. You start talking about thyroid function, and that's your master kind of gland there. It's impacting all of our metabolic functions. So there's just so much to talk about in terms of overall hormone health and the role that they play.
Agreed. I think that on, a personal level for sure, coming into your office and explaining to you all my issues that I was having, which was like, let me flip the page kind of thing. Like it's very difficult. And it was kind of a difficult conversation to have, period. Like I don't recall ever having this conversation with my mother. She had a hysterectomy, never had a conversation, did not know this was coming. I did know that my grandmother at a certain point of her life, she went kind of wackadoo. And now I know why. So it's one of those things where it is nice to have someone in your corner that knows, who is like specialty in this, that can point you in the right directions. So just the hormone replacement therapy has been a godsend for me. And everyone's different. That's another thing. Everyone is different. Everyone's physiologically made differently. So everyone reacts differently to hormones. So what are some of the common misconceptions about hormones and hormonal health?
In terms of replacement therapy?
In terms of replacement therapy and maybe just like general well-being.
Okay, so I think a huge misconception, number one, you kind of touched on it. We just don't talk about this stuff.
Right.
I think we do a really poor job in our country in educating women on their bodies and how they're supposed to work and what's normal and what's not. I always like to say PMS, PMDD, all that stuff is very common. Just because it's common, it doesn't mean that it's normal.
Right.
So I think we as a community, as a healthcare community, we have to start, number one, educating our providers better. Number two, we have to start educating our women better. And then women are going to be able to identify, maybe I shouldn't be feeling this way. Maybe I need to go get checked out. And then, I think it's also a big misconception on menopause. Menopause is pretty anticlimactic. It's literally one day. You've gone 12 years without a menstrual cycle. That's one day. Mm-hmm. Perimenopause, that's that roller coaster. And those symptoms start 10 to 15 years prior to menopause. If you look at the average age of menopause in our country, it's about 52. Right. So that's backing you up to women in their 30s.
Right.
So women start experiencing anxiety, depression, and all of these things, and they think they're crazy, and that's not the case.
Right.
And then, post-menopause, there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions around hormone replacement therapy and whether it's safe or not. It's incredibly safe. A lot of the misinformation out there came from a study that was retracted, and they have since come out and said, no, we got it wrong. Now, granted, not all hormone replacement therapy is created equally. There are risks and benefits to every single route of hormone replacement, and that's why I urge women, men alike, you've got to go to someone that knows what they're doing.
Right.
And someone that knows how to monitor you and knows where these levels should be run at. So you're getting safe physiological dosing for these hormones.
Right. And like I said, I appreciate you so much. How can women identify if they are experiencing hormonal imbalances?
Well, I think a lot of it is symptoms. Yes, I like to track things in lab work as well, but you got to understand that hormonals are fluid. They go up and down all throughout the day, different for different days of the month, the week, whatever that may be. So I don't get hung up on the lab so much. I think it's important, and I think we need to be looking at those things, because then I can start to tie in, you feel better here if your levels are in this range, you feel better there. And granted, we do have a lot of research out there that really does shift us to where these levels should be on paper. But I think women just need to listen to their bodies and kind of tune in and understand that some of these symptoms, while they're common, they're not normal. And I always urge people, get tested before you're having a lot of these symptoms, and then you're going to know what your baseline is.
Exactly. I mean, I honestly believe that if I'd had this conversation with any of my older friends, and I mean older, I'm talking about a year or two, like not super old. I'm not talking about my grandmother. I'm talking about just friends of mine, that, I find myself more and more having these conversations with people and learning so much more about it each time. Everyone is different. Everybody's made up differently. Yeah. And it's just, I think the commonality of it all is that we sometimes feel like we're going bonkers, and it's not necessarily that you're going bonkers. There is actually a medical reason why this is happening. And, we're kind of all in this together. And truly, even though we have different symptoms and, different days are different, we still, as women, still go through kind of the same thing, so that kind of bonds us together. And it really, for me, getting this podcast out, like, it's very important to me to spread the word.
I'm so excited you're doing this.
I know. There's a lot of information for sure. So this is menopause specific questions. Okay. What is one thing you wish every woman knew about menopause?
You can't get away from it. It's gonna happen. It's part of life. It's just, when it happens, is pretty different for every single person.
Right.
And some women, they're lucky. They don't have very many symptoms. I have some women that come in, they've been in menopause for years and they've never had a hot flash.
Right.
Lucky ducks. Like, that's awesome. I like to joke and say they're one of God's favorites.
Yeah, I would say so.
But, so every symptom's different, and just, there's nothing you're going to do about it. And there's a lot of misconception about hormone replacement. Or, well, I don't want to just take a medication. Well, this is something that your body had prior to menopause. So it's not something that you can really, you can live without it, but you got to understand that there's an increased risk of so many things for not having these hormones.
Right. And, I guess with, for my personal, for me, I know that when I came in, I was not on any medications. I'm like, I pride myself. I'm 54 years old. I'm not on any meds. Well, guess what? I take my meds now. I'm religious about it. Like, if it helps me sleep, that is like the cornerstone of making my day the next day and the next week and whatever. So it's, it's important for someone to find a practitioner that can help them. So the next question, can you share practical tips to manage common menopause symptoms like hot flashes, sleep disturbances, or mood swings?
So in terms of menopause, you can't out supplement lack of hormones, right? Like, you can't change your diet enough to replace those hormones. So in perimenopause, things like that, I'm all for supporting that hormonal fluctuation with supplements and diet and healthy lifestyle and all that. That is incredibly important in menopause too. So don't take it that I'm not saying that. Like, you know me, you know how I feel about that. But in terms of really managing those symptoms, there are, for women that have contraindications to hormone replacement therapy, there's some pharmaceuticals that we can use that are going to help with some of those mood swings and, the hot flashes and night sweats and stuff too. So just because you may not be a candidate for hormone replacement therapy doesn't mean that you can't get some relief in those symptoms. So like I said, I think all of it just goes back to working with a practitioner that knows what they're doing and knows how to address those things in every type of patient.
Right. That is very important. Next question, how does menopause affect mental health? And what can women do to support themselves?
Okay, so now you're speaking my love language. I actually am. I don't know if I've told you this, but I'm doing my entire doctorate project on mental health in the peri and postmenopausal female.
Good to hear.
It is literally addressing anxiety and depression in post-menopause, how we're looking at it. Like, I'm doing actual looking at, you know, the GAD, the PHQ, subjective symptoms checklist before, during, post-menopause. Like, so you're really talking to me on this one. I think, you know, mental health is something, while I think a lot of it has come a long way in America, we're very much more apt to talk about our mental health struggles. It's still got a pretty bad stigma around it, unfortunately. And I think, you know, we really do, women specifically, a really huge disservice in healthcare, and just kind of downplaying some of their symptoms, and, well, you're a mom, or you work full time, or of course you're depressed, of course you don't have a libido, and libido plays a huge role in mood, right? Like, libido is an emotion, okay? It's part of all of that. But you know, mental health and menopause, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, they're hugely linked to depression and anxiety. Thyroid dysfunction, statistically proven to increase suicidal ideation if it's not taken care of. So, you know, there's just such a huge tie here. And I think, you know, our guidelines in this country are very outdated, very outdated, like have not been updated in close to 15 years. So we got to start there, I think, and really delving in and looking at these hormones and looking at the cellular level of hormones, not just, you know, an upstream pituitary level of these hormones to dictate what a patient is experiencing and things like that. So once again, we could spend a whole hour on just that question alone.
I know I've got questions here pre-identified, but like you said, there's so much. There's so much to cover that an hour, 30 minutes, well, a week, a month is not enough time.
Yeah,
so hopefully I'll get the chance to interview you again, and we can kind of follow up on these questions at some point. So for an expert perspective on it, are there recent advances in hormone replacement therapy or other treatments for menopause?
Recent advancements? I mean, there's a lot of great articles and research studies and all of that stuff coming out. And I think with the retraction of the Women's Health Initiative, that's kind of given the go-ahead for more research. And I think that is absolutely phenomenal. We've got to have more funding for this research, unfortunately. And with human trials, there's a lot of kind of hoops to really jump through. But, you know, I was reading a really cool article the other day where they were showing the benefits of hormone replacement into the 80s. That is absolutely astounding. I have patients that are in their 80s that are on hormones, and they're still full of life.
That's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's been a lot of advancements, a lot of things looking at safety and efficacy of different ones. I just got a ping on Medscape the other day that was talking about, you know, the differences in the oral and a transdermal route. So transdermal is better than oral and all this stuff. So we really are starting to look at the differences and, you know, where things are benefiting women and men, actually, but in comparison of the different types of replacement, because like I said earlier, all hormones are not created equally, and all hormones don't carry the same risk.
Next question. So how do cultural perceptions of menopause vary globally, and can we learn from other perspectives?
Well, I mean, our European countries are light years ahead of us in terms of replacement and what they offer their women. So I think we could learn a lot from those areas. I mean, in some of these countries, women have full access to hormone replacement of their choice. And I think that's amazing. Culturally, in America in general, I think, like I said, we do a horrible job of educating our women on what their bodies are supposed to do and what to expect and what their options are post-menopause. So it's got to start there. We've got to start educating women, and women got to take their power back.
Right. I agree. Power to the women.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you. During the break, I wanted to talk a little bit about Brittany McNeil. She's a family nurse practitioner who works to optimize your health. She specializes in hormones, peptides, gut health, aesthetics, and overall longevity. Her focus is to work with her patients to determine and solve the root cause of their symptoms. I really want to thank Brittany McNeil for all the knowledge and support she's given me through the years. Hormone replacement therapy is the best thing that has really happened to me, and I really appreciate your help. I'm here with Brittany McNeil, and she's an FNP, and she knows all things hormonal. So I'm going to ask her.
Always learning.
Exactly. We're always learning. But I'm going to ask you another couple questions for the expert perspective. So, what role do holistic approaches such as acupuncture, supplements, mindfulness play in managing hormonal health?
Oh my gosh, I love holistic medicine. I think all nurses in general, that's why we do what we do. We're holistically trained. So, things like acupuncture, chiropractic care, I'm a huge fan of chiropractic care. In terms of like adrenal health and things like that and decreasing inflammation, it's all connected. So I love those things in terms of managing all of these hormone imbalances.
There's a lot of options out there, and that's the thing that I think, like, for us women, we need to know. You don't have to go, it's not a narrow path. It's a path full of different trails that we can go down and to help ourselves. And that's really, like for me, recognizing that I was even going through menopause. I mean, I'm postmenopausal now. I had the one day in July, so I'm postmenopausal, but it literally, I didn't realize I was going through menopause. My partner, he was the one that was like, what is wrong with you? You're not the same Renee I used to know. Like, what is happening? I literally sat on the edge of the bed crying to both my girls saying, I apologize. I'm so sorry. I don't even want to be in my own skin. I don't even like myself. So the things that are coming out of my mouth, I hear them, but it seems like an outer body experience where you're just like snappy and you say things and it's just like, I didn't mean to say all those things. So I'm, apologizing and just kind of educating them as well, letting them know, hey, this is on the horizon.
Kind of changing that generational shift in that mindset,
exactly.
Preparing your girls for what's to come.
Exactly.
I'm only 35, but we didn't talk about this with my parents either. So when I started having symptoms at 27, I was like, I'm going crazy. What is happening? And I was told by multiple practitioners, you're a mom, you work, you go to school, you're stressed out. Of course you're tired. Of course you don't have a sex drive. So that is a huge misconception, and that is not normal.
Right. So. Right. Exactly. And that's all of it, part of it. And there's like a laundry list of things that go on. Like, I feel like the hot sweats, the night and during the day, that played a huge role for me personally. And then of course my mood swings. And then fogginess really didn't help with my job. Like, it really took a toll on my job for sure. When part of my job was doing presentations where I would lose my train of thought and it would just not go well. Or if I would forget the word that I was just going to say. or if I'm trying to find my keys, it goes with the car. Oh, keys. Yes, that's what I'm trying to find. Like, it's just easy little things like that. But, I'm thankful that I am on hormone replacement therapy, because that has definitely helped me in my life and with the girls. I'm a nicer person, and with my partner as well. He and I have a different relationship now. I mean, after 7 years, it is obviously going to change over time, but it has gotten even stronger, which is amazing. I do remember the first time that I came in your office and you were like, okay, so we were talking about libido and everything. I was like, yes, can you go ahead and insert now? I need the pellet like today. Come on, let's do this. And I think probably what you said to me, I definitely heard. You said, now this is not going to make you love your partner. So if you don't already, this is not going to help. So I really appreciated like the candidness of it, to also be like, okay, because there probably are those women out there. They're like on their last leg and they're like, oh my God, I might just choke my partner.
Oh, 100%.
So, so knowing that, hey, this is not going to change your mindset on the people that are around you.
Yeah. And, I say that kind of jokingly, but it comes from an experience that I had. I had a menopausal female. I'd been married to the same person for 25 years. And, she's coming to me time and time and time again. And, it takes a while to get these hormones balanced out. I tell you and everybody else, like, commit to a year of really working with this. It's just leveling everything out. And I'm like, I don't like to look at only lab work, but I was like, you are perfect on paper. Like, there's no reason you shouldn't have a libido. And I kind of like, jokingly, I was like, do you even like your husband? And she burst into tears. Oh, no. And like, that just broke my heart for her, because she wanted that marriage to work because it had been there for 25 years of her life. And, it just wasn't that loving relationship any longer. And I think that's really sad, but it's a huge piece. And a lot of women, and her specifically, she thought she was the broken one.
Right.
And that's not the case.
Yeah.
But going back to your previous question, when talking about supplementation and diet and things like that, supplementation, yes, there's definitely supplements we can use. And I think we use those mainly to help support metabolism of hormones. So hormones get a bad rap. Usually if there's an issue, it's metabolite driven. So we got to support that. And, we metabolize things through our liver and all of these things. So you got to support healthy liver health and making sure people are having, going to the bathroom regularly and doing all these things. If you're not working on all of that stuff, you're actually going to increase risk with hormone replacement therapy. So I do believe we've got to tailor our lifestyle and our diet. So staying hydrated, healthy, whole foods based diet, eating enough. Women do not eat enough.
Right.
Eating enough calories, focusing on hitting their protein goals, weightlifting, huge. Stop doing cardio every day. Like, you've got to get the weights. You've got to maintain your muscle mass. Muscle mass is, the currency of aging. It really is. So staying healthy, eating enough protein, eating a well-balanced, well-rounded diet, omega fatty acids, all of that, targeted supplementation to help these metabolites of these hormones. And I think that's how you approach healthy hormone health in a holistic manner.
That's, yes. So, I do on a, again, personal level. So I could see myself with now going to my primary care, and now I'm on a statin. I never had an issue with my LDLs or any of my lipids or no issues whatsoever until now, So it's one of those things. I've also back to the gym 3 days a week, which is great. And my coach is hormonal. So that even makes it better, because she's just like the same, exactly what you said. Enough cardio, people. Cardio, no. You need to do some weight training. And it doesn't have to be with weights per se. Body weight. Pilates, you could get you can get a massive workout at home with no weights whatsoever, just from your body weight. So I've learned a lot from her as well. So definitely should do some exercise. So for personal stories, can you share a story of someone who successfully transformed their health by addressing hormonal imbalances?
It's not only hormonal though. It really is. It is so many other aspects. It's mental health. It's lifestyle driven in terms of diet and exercise and stress management. So for me to say I've fixed someone strictly hormonally, that's not the case at all. It is definitely a whole approach. But I do have one patient that comes to mind, and she's been working with me for 4 years now. So basically since right after I started doing what I'm doing now. And, she was very overweight. She was close to 300 pounds. She's only about 5'4", maybe. So very overweight. So usually I tell everybody when they come in, yes, you've got hormonal imbalances. Yes, you're menopausal, perimenopausal. So you don't have that drive. You don't have that motivation. You don't have that energy to really commit to a meal plan, commit to going to the gym 2-3 days a week. We focus on the small victories. So we're going to get the hormones balanced out, so you're sleeping better, your motivation's better, your energy level's better. So I always tell people, let's start there, and then we're going to start peeling away. We're going to start getting you back exercising. We're going to start working on your meal plan. We're going to start doing all of that stuff. But long story short, her and I, we've done hormone replacement, we've done supplementation, we've done peptide therapies, which I love peptides. We could do a whole talk on peptides. So it's been a combination of all of that stuff. And she's down 160 pounds. Her triglycerides were over 300, and now they're within normal limits. She's off of her blood pressure medication. She's off of her statin drug.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do a whole nother one on that one, too.
All right.
So, I call that a huge win.
Yeah, that's a huge win.
She's comfortable looking at herself in the mirror. She went on a vacation this past summer with her husband and was so proud to show me pictures of her in a bathing suit on the beach.
Awesome.
Huge win, proud, provider, healthcare provider moment there. So
that's awesome.
I don't take any credit for that at all. She did the work. We worked together, and she put in the time and the effort, and she's the one that transformed her life. So I just kind of helped her navigate it.
That's a great, I love that story. So that is another thing that I'm hoping with this podcast, I'll be able to also shed some light on some of the triumphs that people have had. Some people have really struggled and have come through that. very well and are doing amazing. So, I mean, I feel like I'm doing much better than when I first saw you. I'm doing much, much better. So I feel like there are stories out there. I feel like there's also stories that from even young women. Like you said, I mean, starts early.
Yeah, I was 27.
Let's start talking about it before. Matter of fact, I have a friend of mine who's 24. We had a conversation the other day, and she was telling me how her, talking about periods and how difficult it is, and started on the pill because the physician said, all these things. And I was just like, oh, it just, my heart went out to her, because I was like, I mean, I remember those days. And it was tough. And I remember in the beginning, I mean, I was also put on the pill as a kid. I'd say 16, 17, 15, that's a kid, so it's pretty young to start the pill, especially when you're not having sex, but they're trying to regulate things in your body. And it just didn't work for me. It made me feel even like I was going nuts. Like, it definitely just
an increased risk of mental illness with oral contraceptives. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for those things, but a 15-year-old with acne is probably not that time and place.
Right.
Right. So whole nother conversation there. But, like I said, I think it just goes back to educating. Number one, our healthcare providers. I mean, when I was looking at research for my doctorate project, we get an average of 7 hours of education on hormones.
Oh, that's depressing.
7 hours.
That's terrible.
It's
that's
really
pretty
sad.
terrible. I mean, and I feel like in the States, there's a ton of us around. There's men and women everywhere. So I just don't understand, why women's health is so far down on the docket when we are the caregivers for the most part. We are the backbone generally of the family. We're the ones that kind of keep the train moving. Men are definitely have their role for sure, but I just feel like the moms and the women are the ones that kind of carry a lot of the load, and that's why we're tired, and that's why, so,
definitely plays a role for sure. And I do think that goes back to a lot of women, especially women in my generation. Like, we were taught to be strong, independent women, go have a career, like kick ass, take names kind of thing. But you still have to be a mom. You still have to be a wife. You still have to put dinner on the table. You have to run. I have 2 kids. We are running to dance, gymnastics, soccer, cheer, all of that stuff. So it's just such a societal pressure as well. And I think women my age, your age, everything, we need to kind of step back and realize it's healthy to set boundaries. And I'm speaking to myself on this one too. Like, you can't do it all, and we put so much pressure on ourselves. So it goes back to what I said earlier, like, women just have to take their power back.
Right. I agree. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh,
I really appreciate it, and I hope I'll be able to have you again.
Absolutely.
And everyone, thank you for watching Hormone Power Hour, and hopefully I'll get some followers, and we need to learn more. So I appreciate the time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm excited
to
do it.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you for listening to episode number 1 of Hormone Power Hour.